excited about it. I mean, I've seen the people that he's been interviewing for this program, and he's got a lot of really interesting people, some high profile people, and it's looking like he's going to get some other really interesting people. So just looking at who all he's talking to in this documentary, I want to see it just for that, because it's going to be really interesting to hear what they have to say. And, obviously the subject matter is really important. When you talk to me, we kind of talked mostly about some of the religious aspects of it, and then the effects on churches and things. But, there's a lot more to everything that's going on than just religious stuff. And so I'm interested in hearing what some of these people have to say, because I think we're all in a state right now where we're just wondering what's next, and we're nervous about what's going to happen. So based on some of these people that he's got lined up and he's going to be talking to, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting program. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, absolutely. And considering that this information is getting dated very quickly, and it takes so long to film and edit and put these things together, that by the time he puts it out, it could already be dated to a historical point. So that's one reason I'm wanting to put this on this show as well. So, because this information needs to be out there.
Mm-hmm. And for sure. And the thing that's important, it's very important he gets it out as soon as possible, because things are changing. But either way, it needs to get out there, because one thing that I'm very afraid of this whole thing is, it looks like that they're starting to let up a little bit now that Biden's in office. They are all starting to admit we've got to open the country, we've got to let things get back to normal. And I think it's because they want there to be an economic recovery, and they want Biden to get the credit for it. I don't really care who gets credit. I just want them to open things back up. But, I don't want us to ever forget what they did during this time. I don't want us to ever forget how they forced churches to shut down, how they closed businesses, they told them they were non-essential. I don't want us to ever forget how they made us wear masks, and how they pushed all this stuff with the vaccinations. We should never forget what they did. And unfortunately, they're going to very quickly start rewriting history. Very quickly, they're going to start trying to make us forget some of the dumb things that they did, and just unconstitutional things that they put on us. And so even if it does take a while to get this documentary out and it's dated, it needs to be out there so we can always remember what they did. We can never forget this, because we don't want to ever let this happen again. And if anything, the more of these type of things we can get out there so there's just documentation about the foolishness that went on. I believe 2020 and this whole COVID era that we're in, I hope, and it's my desire, that this will be a time in our history that we're ashamed of. I hope it's a time where people look back and they see the masks and be like, man, what were we thinking? When they see the panic and the panic buying and all that stuff that went on, I hope it's a time that we're all embarrassed by, because if we're embarrassed, then that tells me we learned some lessons. But I'm afraid the media and the government and big tech is going to all be working together to do some revisionist history and do everything they can to try to squelch messages like this that are out there. So we will look back historically and talk about how the government saved us, how their unconstitutional, overreaching policies save lives. In fact, they could have saved more lives if it wasn't for that pesky old Constitution getting in the way. And the vaccine saved the day. And next time we have a pandemic, and there will be a next time, we can't be having to jump this hurdle of the Constitution and worrying about people's rights. You just need to roll up your sleeve, take the vaccination, put on the mask, do whatever we tell you to do. Otherwise, more people are going to die. So these things need to get out. Somebody's got to be speaking the truth, and this information needs to get spread around.
I completely agree. Now, just so for people who don't know, what is the Great Reset? Because that is a term that has been newly coined in media nowadays. It's more independent media. Let's talk about that a little bit. What is it?
Right. So I guess when you talk about the Great Reset, I don't know that there's uh, a single definition for it just yet. Obviously, I think what everybody means when they talk about it is they're tearing everything down right now so they can rebuild something new, something that fits the agenda that they want. And what that agenda is, we probably all got different opinions on it. But just some things that I've been hearing recently, just in the past couple of days, is I've been hearing them, talk about how the challenges of getting these vaccinations out there. It's so hard, and they're talking about, we need this structure in place. We need this group to be put in place so we can get all these things implemented. We're having trouble enforcing these things. How are we going to enforce stuff? And so, to me, what this whole thing has done is it's showing the government what they're going to be up against when the real takeover comes from. And so, in my world, it's the mark of the beast system that it's all going towards. And you can't make a mark of the beast system just happen overnight. There's needs to be certain things in place. And I think this whole COVID thing, it's something that they've been doing as kind of a way to test the waters. Who are we going to be fighting? Where is the resistance going to come from? And what groups? What methods are they using? Social media, all that. And so we're seeing the censorship get ramped up big time, because obviously people like us that are putting out other information is causing problems for them. So they've got to figure out how to squelch that. The logistics and enforcing things. They don't have enough police. They don't have enough things in place so they can force people to do all the things that they want them to do. And so they're going to look at, all right, we weren't able to make everybody wear a mask. We were able to in these areas, but these other places we couldn't get them to do it. What do we need to put in this place so we can force these things? And so, when it came to giving the vaccination out, how do you vaccinate 330 million people? This is where we were struggling. These were the people that were making it difficult. What kind of system do we need to have in place so we can implement these things quickly? So I think what we're seeing is, I think this whole thing wasn't over. It was, it was a flu, it was a sickness, but it was overhyped to the max. And it was done in a way so they could basically test us to see what they're going to be up against when the real thing comes, like the mark of the beast. And so we're hearing a lot of talk about what they've been learning through all this. And I think over the next years, we're going to see a lot of policies put in place that are ultimately meant to make things easier the next time they have to push some kind of foolishness like this.
Right. Now, one thing that, that I've noticed, especially working on this film is with Paul, is the differences in terminology that they use. Like right now, they are using terminology such as mandates instead of laws.
Right.
Now, mandate is not a law, it's a recommendation.
Right.
So,
right.
So that's the thing. I mean, you got all these states, all these governors trying to be dictators to their states, writing executive order mandates, and realistically, they're writing empty policies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even look at Biden currently today. What was it? His first day in office, he mandated the 100-day mask mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't gonna happen. Not in my face. I ain't wearing no face diaper.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they really can't implement it. And one thing I've noticed is, especially with masks, and this is just a stepping stone to vaccines and other things, but especially with masks, they know they legally cannot enforce anything like that. So they kick it down to stores and corporations,
mm-hmm.
and allow them to make policies. Well, here's the thing. how can you make a policy that violates the Constitution, which you as a private corporation is still bound by? And that's another thing too. You can still be labeled a private corporation, but if you're open to the public, you're considered a public amenity. You have the right to, you still have to serve those people.
Well, I think when it comes down to a lot of those things, I don't know all the rules and things for corporations and stuff, but the thing is, I do think private businesses should be allowed to do what they want to do. I mean, if they don't want to serve certain people, if they don't want to bake the cake for the homo couple, I don't think they should have to do it. I think they should be allowed to discriminate. I think they should be allowed to have a dress code and things like that. The problem I have when I go into a Walmart or Menards or whatever is I know this isn't the company that that wants this. I mean, what company wants to turn people away, that are coming to spend their money? They're doing it under intimidation of the government, or because they're intimidated by the news media. They're doing it to be politically correct. And if they're doing these things, if I feel like they're just doing it to protect themselves from the government, I understand, they don't want to mess with this stuff, but I wish they would at least fight it a little bit, but then if they're doing it to be politically correct, that's when I get bent out of shape, because, you're basically playing along with just absolute foolishness. And I don't want to have to do that. And so when I go into businesses and they're like, we're just trying to cover our backsides, I'm nice to them and I'm respectful. But when they want to lecture me and give me a speech and tell me they're trying to keep me safe, then I just think they're idiots, and they've bought into the just news media hype. They're doing it to be politically correct, because it is. It's politically correct now, and it's politically to wear a mask. It's politically incorrect to not wear a mask. And so this is just them, pandering to the news media and the social justice warriors and stuff. They're scared to, they're scared to death of. And I have a problem with that. So it's like I'm mad that the government is putting pressure on these companies, but I'm also mad at these companies for giving in to that pressure. I wish they would fight it. But the truth is, most people, they don't understand how laws work in this country. They don't understand the difference between an actual law and a mandate. And they just hear the news media say, the president mandated this, and then all of a sudden it's like, I have to do this. And then they look at other people like they're breaking the law. And people just need to stop being just so ignorant and just being sheep that just goes along with whatever they say, and actually look into some of these things. But the news media and the government is fine with the masses thinking that, because too, they're not interested in educating the people. They want them thinking that, so the public will put pressure on other people, and they're using things like social shaming and stuff to just intimidate people into conforming to their will. And the thing is, the longer we think that they have the right to do this stuff, the easier it's going to be for them to actually start passing laws that actually do force us to do these things. And so what people need to do, we need to educate people and tell them, listen, you don't want to go out there dressed like an idiot, do you? You don't want to go out there wearing that face diaper. You don't think it helps. You don't think it's comfortable. You don't want to do it. You don't have to do it. Don't do it. But people are scared, and they think they do have the right, and so they're not even fighting this stuff anymore. So it's like they're just going to keep doubling down.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you this. Have there been any reports or studies that talk about how masks are effective or safe?
Well, here's the thing about that. You can find a study that tells you whatever you want. I've heard of studies that say they don't help. And I like those ones because that fits my agenda. I've heard other studies that say they absolutely do help. At the end of the day, we all believe the story that goes along with what we already believe. None of us have done our own research. I haven't looked at the coronavirus under a microscope. I haven't studied these things. But we're all blindly following somebody. It's just some of us are honest enough, to admit it. And with me, whether masks works or don't work, to me is irrelevant. I'm not seeing the evidence that I am in any danger or that I'm endangering anybody. I'm not seeing any evidence of asymptomatic spread. And so, if I'm actually sick, then yeah, it makes sense that I would wear a mask in that situation if I want to protect other people. And I think it's responsible if you're sick to do something so you can protect other people from you, since you are walking around with all the germs. But when you're fine, when you're healthy, you shouldn't have to do foolishness like that. And to just tell people you have to do this because you might be sick is just absolutely ridiculous. They have no right to do anything like that. And I'm the type of person, I don't want to put up with that type of stuff. I want to resist, foolishness.
Exactly.
Like
Which we should. We should always resist foolishness.
Right.
Well, if they're mandating masks, how long before they start mandating or making it mandatory you have to have a vaccine? I mean, and do you think it's going to come to the point to where if you don't have a vaccine, you won't be able to buy, sell, go to the store, travel, or anything at all?
Yeah, well, it's for sure going to come, and the question is, and this is part of the Great Reset, and this is what we're being tested on right now. The question is, what will it take to make us do it? Right now, pretty much all they're doing is just inconveniencing us like crazy, by making us do all this foolishness. I mean, it's annoying wearing the mask. It's going to be annoying if we've got to go before we fly and do things. We got to get a COVID test. These things are going to become so annoying. A lot of people are just going to say, you know what, give me the shot. And if a large enough percentage of people take that, then that's a smaller percentage they have to worry about, and it's going to be even easier to put these things in place. But at the end of the day, they've got to keep taking control of corporations and more businesses, and more things need to become federal so they actually have the jurisdiction. And they're all working towards that. They're all moving towards it. But what stops this type of thing is resistance. You have to resist. You have to push back. And Americans are just so passive about everything. They don't resist to anything. And it's just, whatever the government says, that's what I'm going to do. And they've got it in their head that, government, here's where people get mixed up. They see that verse in the Bible. It says, for rulers are not a terror unto good works. Okay. The Bible does say that, but you know what the Bible also says? Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth of the Lord. Now, does that mean that every wife is a good wife? Okay. There are some men out there that are married to absolute horror stories, and nobody would make the argument that what they are married to is a good thing. Okay. Yes, she has the title of wife, but she is not fulfilling the role of wife. She's not submitting to her husband. She's not doing all the things that God called her to do. Maybe she's even bossing the husband around, which is not what God called her to do. But people are like, well, it's a wife, therefore it's a good thing. Well, it's the same thing with government. God ordained the government certain authority and certain jurisdiction. When they step outside of that, that is them no longer doing what God has called them to do and ordained them to do. And just because they still call themselves the government does not mean they're not a terror to good works. That verse is not teaching that someone who is a part of government is not capable of being a terror to good works. If they are any ruler that's doing what God has ordained them to do, is going to be a blessing and is not going to be a terror to good works. They're going to be a terror to those who are evil, to the evildoers. But what we're seeing today is people, they get certain offices and then all of a sudden they declare themselves authority that God never gave them, authority that the Constitution never gave them. They start harassing people, they start persecuting people, and then you have ignorant, limp-wristed Christians out there who say, rulers aren't a terror to good works. There must be something wrong with you. You just need to stop resisting. No, no, I'm not wrong in this situation, and these people are not being rulers as God ordained. These are tyrants that are violating the word of God,
Right.
and we don't have to put up with that.
Well, it seems like with everything going on right now, it's leading us into, you know, biblical times, such as everything, especially with the vaccine, for example. If they do mandate it, that seems like it's almost like a foothold into, or footstep into the direction of a cashless society.
Hmm.
What would your thoughts be on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the cashless society is definitely going to come. And, they've used this pandemic as an excuse to advance a lot of that stuff. But ultimately, that's just about control, too. Everything that they're implementing, it's all about control. They want to be able to have some kind of say. They want to be able to get a piece of the action in everything that's done. When we have cash, it's a great way for just us as individuals to just be able to do business amongst each other, and it's a very convenient tool. The problem is the government has declared themselves the right to tax our business that we do and tax our income. When the Bible talks about, the Bible says, for this cause pay ye tribute, it's talking about paying that guy who has the sword, who's punishing the evildoer. And two men doing business with each other, those are not evildoers. You aren't hurting anybody when you are doing business and when we're paying each other and exchanging goods and services. But the problem that they've had for years is because they've declared themselves the authority to get a piece of that action and everything, it's very hard for them to do that with cash. And so they're going to have to make everything electronic so they can now, have a paper trail. It just makes it easier for them to control, but it makes everything harder for the rest of us. It's going to make it now where when I do want to help somebody, I'm going to have to charge them more than I normally would have. Now I'm making things more difficult for them just so Uncle Sam can get a few more bucks in his pocket. That's not right. And what's Uncle Sam going to do with that? He's going to go fight another war. He's going to go fund some transgender study program. He's going to bring another bug or something over to the United States to help some environmental problem, and it's going to create even more trouble somewhere else. This is the type of things they're doing with it. God never ordained that. And, I'm tired of them just ruining everything they touch.
I completely agree. One other thing I was wanting to talk on is within the last 6 months especially, we heard former President Trump talking about Operation Warp Speed. That's right. Where he wants to send the military out to issue the vaccines. On something like that, do you really think the military should be involved in?
Absolutely not. I mean, for one, what in the world is the federal government doing, taking charge of something that should be handled on a state and local level? That's crazy that the federal government is even trying to head something like that up. That's really scary. I mean, because for one, even mandating forcing a vaccination on people, that's a really huge thing. And that's why we have different states. That's one of the reasons we do that. It helps protect us, so there's some place we can escape to if we need to, because hopefully all 50 states aren't going to go psycho all at once. If California wants to go nuts, let California go nuts. At least people can escape from there and go somewhere else. But when the federal government goes nuts, we got a problem, because now they're implementing their insanity on all 50 states. And so the fact that Trump was even trying to do that, it's just insane. They have no business doing that. And they say, well, we're trying to help. And it's like, okay, well, you can help if the states call for that. Kind of like with the National Guard.
Right.
The governors are supposed to request National Guard presence and, local leaders and local sheriffs. They're the ones that are supposed to request certain things. So I guess if you want to have some of that available, he can do that, but you're still going to be spending federal funds to implement things and deal with things that should be handled on a state level. And I think that's a horrible, horrible precedent. But again, logistically, how are they going to do all this? And so, one thing Trump did that was good is he did, he wasn't expanding the wars and troops overseas and things like that. And so, he maybe has the more ability to use them for things over here, but use them for something like that, I think it's just absolutely nuts. And I thought it was a horrible idea. And I don't know if President Biden's going to do the same thing or not. I hope not, but either it's federal government. They don't like to talk about the fact that many things should be handled on state and local levels, because it's like they want us to forget there are still supposed to be some states' rights.
Right. All right. You know what? I think that, well, actually, I believe in this film wholeheartedly. And in order for Paul to be able to finish this film, he's going to need support. And I think, and it's up to us to actually stand up and actually, be able to support him on something like this so he can get information out there. I mean, he's traveling the country several times just to, get this information. And this is information that the world needs to hear, not just the United States.
Right.
And so I urge people, anyone watching this or anything, I mean, go to framingtheworld.com and go support this project. I mean, he cannot complete this without your help.
Right.
That's the one thing I do want to urge on this.
And with Paul's line of work and the way things work, obviously, he needs to be, making an income and paying his bills. And a lot of times, he's got projects and things he's wanting to work on, but he's got to do some things that actually bring in the money so he can live. And so the thing is, when it comes to this project, this is the one he really needs to get done right now. And so this needs to be the one that's bringing in some money so he's able to focus his time and attention on it. And the thing is, this has been a big deal too. And, I know it hasn't been cheap traveling all over like he's done and getting all these interviews. But so the thing is, when he comes back, he's going to have an unbelievable amount of content to work with, but it is going to take a great deal of time. So I really do hope people will give specifically towards this project. That way he's able to focus his time and attention when he gets back home on getting all this stuff edited together for this, because it needs to get out there. It needs to get out there quick. The people's minds need to be changed on this stuff. I think this stuff would have ended a long time ago if people would have pushed back.
Right.
And anything that we can get out there to wake people up to what's going on and to get them to start fighting back against this stuff, and even just doing something as simple as just not wearing the mask, and even just speaking out against these things. If more people will do that, I think we'll start to see this stuff go away sooner rather than later. And understand, even if it appears to go away for a little bit, understand they're going to be behind the scenes and they're going to be doing their homework and figuring out, all right, what did we learn from this situation? And they are going to, the reset's coming eventually, but here's the thing, are we going to make this easy on them, or are we going to make it difficult? And I think we should at least make it difficult on these people, because what they're doing, what they're promoting, it's wicked and it's evil, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. And I don't know that this is for sure what's going to bring about the mark of the beast. What if we have another 100 years? We've got it. Unfortunately, something that's kind of happened in the last couple generations is we've gotten rid of the mindset of thinking about our children's and our grandchildren and the next generations. We only think about this generation because we're convinced we're the generation that's going up in the rapture. But you know what? We might not be. We've got to get back to thinking about the next generation. And so if we see them doing things that's destroying our country and destroying the future for the next generations, we need to stand against that and try to resist so we can hopefully preserve the good that we do have in case it is a long time before the Lord returns.
I agree. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on this show again. And it's always a privilege to have you here. How can people support you and your ministry as well?
Well, you can find all our information on our website, givemelibertybaptist.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find the links on there, and just follow what we do, help promote the information we're trying to get out. Come visit the church, and either way, no matter what, we're going forward, whether our YouTube survives the censorship or not. We're going to keep going out winning souls, trying to reach as many people as we can. We're going to keep trying to get our information out there online as much as we can. We have a BitChute account, BitChute.com/Give Me Liberty Baptist. We just started a Rumble here account recently. Go subscribe to all those alternative platforms. Let's let those ones that are allowing more free speech, let's help them succeed, and maybe it'll either make YouTube die or back off a little bit. And so follow us in all those things, and I think that's the important thing. That's what you can do for us, I guess.
Absolutely. And also, apart from supporting Brother Paul at framingtheworld.com, go to my YouTube channel, which is Peter Reddick. Like and subscribe. It always helps. And if you want to support to help me make more content as well, you can also support me through Patreon at Being Baptist Production. And again, these topics that we're going to be talking on these next few weeks or next several weeks, they need to get out there. So again, like, subscribe, and most importantly, share this content with everyone. Because, people need to see this. They need to wake up. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, and you have a very good evening. And God bless.
Yes, sir, you too. God bless.